Hi Pinocchio 90 and YouTubers. This is a video response to Pinocchio 90, who's posted a question regarding spirituality and whether or not we actually possess it. And I've been wanting to answer this one for a while, or at least respond to it. I don't necessarily know that I'm answering it. Because it's something that I've thought about before, and it's not always an easy one to discuss, because so much has been surrounded by the mystics that make spirituality something that has to do with theism and otherworldly views and whatnot, and I don't see spirituality that way, and it's simply because, well, if you look at spirituality, I often look upon it as a kind of description of, let's say, drive, human drive. Something along those lines. It's something that, in the sense, there's a sense that you could say that it lives on beyond the possessor by virtue of it being something that people continue to use after the person's demise. It could be ideas, it could be monuments, it could be memories, could be any of these things that are continuing on after the person has died. In that sense, you have a connection with the immortality of the spirit. But I can't take it to the point of saying that the spirit is something like a ghost or some connection with God or something like that. I have no knowledge of anything prior to life in terms of consciousness and whatnot. So I have. I think in that sense a good reason to think that consciousness is tied to the this physicality of mine. What makes me consciously aware of my existence is all the substructure that exists to sustain it. The electrical impulses, and these are not just electrical impulses, these are ordered electrical impulses, electrical chemical interactions and whatnot, and they all culminate in the formation of what I refer to as me. So once the substructure goes, then there's nothing to carry it on any further, and those electrical impulses become unstructured electrical impulses and go off in their merry way in whatever form they choose, in whatever form happens to them. I don't often really like to do this, but I'm going to give it a try, because sometimes something like this can be so difficult. I did take the effort to write stuff down just to see if it would work well for me, so I'll just take a moment and look at this. I'll read something I've written, because it's too long for me to memorize. I remember the term Pinocchio 90 actually used with spirituality, and as an atheist, obviously this is paradoxical. But remembering that a paradox is only a seeming contradiction, let us proceed. Oftentimes there are historical references to the spirit of man as that part of us that will not be dominated, or is unstoppable, or represents the best within us, or will not die. These qualities are often referred to as something that lives on beyond our lives, usually in the form of accomplishments and deeds or objects or ideas that the rest of us continue to appreciate or use after the Creator has died. This seeming immortality or connection with longevity of an aspect of an individual's life may be what has been associated with the mystical side of spirituality. This is about the furthest I can go in siding with the argument of the immortality of the soul. My own personal experience does not include any evidence of life either before birth or after death in the theistic sense, so I'm not going to pursue this concept of spirituality along that line. I'm not going to go into any arguments some may have regarding the interpretation of experience as being valid proof of life after death. Interpretation is a good issue to discuss, but I'm not willing to do that here, just for the sake of brevity. If anyone would like to discuss interpretation, please indicate so. Presently, I'd like to continue with Pinocchio 90's question. A reference to Frankenstein's description of spirit would be a good one. Some, however, may object to its purely intellectual reference of spirituality. I don't think one need only be intellectually driven to create the image of one possessed by the spirit. I don't want to promote the mind-body dichotomy, but there is evidence that emotions and thought can be at odds or in conflict with each other, even though it may be a state of emotional intellectual illness. In such a state, one could be emotionally driven to act. If one's emotional intellectual faculty were in sync, the appearance would still be that one is emotionally driven to act. There are many who would agree with the idea that spirit is closer related to the emotional faculty than the intellectual faculty. And I think this is where the reference to passion comes in. Passion being a measure of the degree to which one feels about any particular issue. Sometimes there can be a confusion or blurring of lines between what one may call the spirit or the demon of a man. Please remember, ladies, I use the term man to describe the species and not the gender of the topic here. But I regard demon and spirit as two sides of the same coin, ethics being the discipline that would help to distinguish the two. Here, too, we start to move into an area that could depend on interpretation. This brings us to the point where Pinocchio 90 wonders if it's a good idea to start some kind of atheist-based charitable organization, as his experience has had him concealing his identity as an atheist among Christians in volunteer work he'd performed in the past. I'm presuming the purpose of this is to show that there are good atheists. Here, I'd like to suggest that there are good atheists, just as there are bad theists. The existence of charitable organizations under their banner is not what makes the difference, and I doubt that you'll prove any such thing to those who think they hold a monopoly on the origin and/or source of ethics. Besides, if one thinks that the only way a person can behave in an ethical manner is to have a threat of punishment held over one's head, then I question their whole idea of ethics. And that's where I finished off. I wanted to continue on with this because if I keep on postponing it, I'm never going to get somewhere, and I don't want to be like my older brother who held nothing as good enough and never got anything accomplished. So, view that. Let me know what you think. I'm curious. This is not something that, as with many ideas, is completely closed. It's something that should be pursued, or can be pursued, if one finds it absolutely necessary. Again, I find there a nobility to approaching the pursuit of helping others in a truly charitable manner to enjoy the good that comes from it, rather than trying to boast that I did good. This proves that I am good. I don't think we need to do that. That still comes from that mentality of some of the theistic views that man is basically bad, and I don't buy it. I really don't. Sometimes that's really hard to shake, though. It's been beaten into us for so long. Anyways, let me know what you think. Talk to you later. Bye for now.